There are sounds that can drive a person insane. Nails on metal, the whine of an engine stalling in zero gravity, the slick, repetitive slurp of a diplomat chewing gelatinous slugs during a treaty meeting, but none of them compared to this. The child had been crying for 72 straight hours, non-stop, without pause, without mercy. Palace attendants were collapsing in the hallways, stumbling through corridors like survivors of some sonic apocalypse. Zalari engineers had constructed an adaptive dampening field around the royal nursery to contain the noise, one that, in theory, could muffle a neutron explosion. It had ruptured within the first 3 hours. A freshly promoted tech lieutenant had tried tuning the frequency of the field to match the child's cry and accidentally opened a micro-singularity in the courtyard. The resulting paperwork was still being filed across 3 planetary systems. "May the stars swallow me," muttered General Latak as he pressed both palms to his smooth teal temples. His war medals clinked slightly as he leaned forward on the Queen's war table. "We have suppressed rebellions, assassinated spies mid-toast, and won the Skarn campaign in 12 hours. But this..." Queen Valara didn't answer. Her violet eyes were locked on the hollow of her child's cradle, as if staring long enough might summon a solution, or banish the problem into a pocket dimension. Her long ears, twitching ever so slightly, betrayed her restraint. No one commented. The baby wailed from behind the translucent cradle shield, its small fists balled, cheeks flushed a peculiar shade of interstellar mauve, and its voice, somehow, amplifying through matter. "We've tried everything," the head of bioacoustics sighed. "Auto-harmonizers, Xana-lullaby imprints, even that Terran trick with a vacuum cleaner sound loop. Nothing's worked." "Did you try warming the milk?" offered a junior nurse before being telekinetically removed from the room by the Queen's impatient glance. Court physicians, neurologists, priests from 3 major faiths, a soul reader from the moon of Zarek 4. All had failed. Outside the palace, the city of Cyranos adjusted. White noise generators sold out across the markets. Earplug manufacturers hit record profits. Local comedians began adding impersonations of the royal baby to their routines, until 2 mysteriously vanished. The people whispered, "If the Queen can't soothe her own child, what hope is there for peace?" Meanwhile, on the southern edge of the palace compound, in a much less ornate, considerably more stained break room, Corporal Jonah Harlan was losing to a vending machine. He kicked it again. "Come on, you overpriced trash can. Give me the chips. I pressed B7. The machine whirred in defiance. "Still think violence is the answer, Harlan?" said Private Nguyen, leaning back in a chair made of recycled starship panels. "Only if it gets me sour synth barbecue chips," Jonah grunted. "Also, I'm 97% sure this thing is sentient and hates me personally." Nguyen pointed toward the ceiling, where the faintest, warbling cry could still be heard like a ghost trapped in a vent. "You could try shaking that baby instead of the vending machine. Get promoted instantly, or executed." "Tempting, but I like my head where it is." A message pinged across Jonah's retinal HUD. Nguyen blinked. What did you do?" "I have no idea." When 2 ceremonial guards in shimmering armor showed up 30 seconds later, Jonah felt a sinking in his gut. He did a quick mental inventory. He hadn't insulted any nobles, out loud. He hadn't smuggled Earth beer into restricted zones, this month. And he definitely hadn't flirted with the Queen's cousin again after the last time she almost turned him into a sculpture. As he followed the guards down impossibly clean corridors lit with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat, Jonah heard it, the full brunt of the wail. It was no longer just a cry. It was a presence, a tidal wave of despair and rage from lungs the size of a bread box. How it created that much noise was either a miracle or a scientific crime. The nursery doors hissed open, revealing a room of chaos. Frantic aides, burnout doctors, a floating AI psychiatrist hovering in a corner, muttering about prenatal trauma. It all stopped when Jonah stepped in, and then they all looked at him. The Queen stood at the center, her presence like a blade in human form. She pointed without speaking to the cradle. Jonah stared, then at her, then back. "You want me to?" The Queen's eyes didn't blink. "Pick. Her." Up, he took a step forward, then another. like a bomb technician approaching a twitchy warhead. The baby was still screaming. He reached out awkwardly and scooped her into his arms with the grace of someone holding a wild animal for the first time. Silence. The room froze. The baby hiccuped, then cooed. Someone dropped a data pad. A crystal goblet shattered. Jonah blinked. I didn't do anything. The baby nestled against his chest and let out a contented sigh. Queen Vilara's lips parted slightly. That might have been her version of gasping. What are you? Just a guy who wanted chips, Jonah said. Then without thinking, he gently bounced the baby once. Maybe she just likes Earth guys. We don't glow or shoot lasers from our hands. We're predictable, like toast. The AI psychiatrist short-circuited. The Queen walked slowly toward him, inspecting the baby's sudden calm with suspicion. She has never stopped for anyone, not even me. Jonah looked down at the infant's now drooling smile. What can I say? I have a very huggable aura. You are now assigned to the child. What? Wait, no. I've got janitorial duty next week. Effective immediately, any refusal will be interpreted as treason. He laughed, then saw she wasn't joking. Okay then. Your Majesty, what's her name? The Queen narrowed her eyes. Varela Tarasha Quen of the Third Flame, heir to the Void Crown and High Starborn bloodline. Jonah stared. Right. Gonna call her Bean. The Queen narrowed her eyes further. The baby cooed again. Bean it was. It took approximately 37 minutes for the implications to sink in. Jonah Harlan, Corporal, Earth Forces, Peacekeeping Detachment, Zeta-4 semi-professional vending machine kicker, had just been appointed royal caretaker to the heir of the Zelari Empire, a title that came with no instructions, no hazard pay, and definitely no manual for dealing with a baby who occasionally glowed when she sneezed. Ambassador of Baby, Jonah muttered, staring at the ceremonial badge now magnetically attached to his chest plate. I swear they're messing with me. I assure you, said the steward gliding beside him, it is an honor unprecedented in 12 generations. That's great, Jonah replied, but I'm pretty sure the last honor I got involved cleaning gunk from a space kraken's molting pool. The steward, a floating Zelari male with data tentacles for hair, blinked slowly. You are now a vital figure in the court's inner circle. The Queen has decreed it. Fantastic. I've always dreamed of spending my off hours being barfed on by royalty. The corridors of the palace changed as they walked. Less marble, more crystals, less intimidating guards, more shimmering floating nurseries staffed by soft-voiced caregivers in robes that shimmered like liquid glass. Every time Bean saw Jonah, she gurgled happily. Every time someone else tried to take her, she emitted a scream powerful enough to short out biomonitors. She was currently strapped to Jonah's chest in an advanced hovering baby sling designed for zero-G travel. It adjusted itself to his posture, emitted calming vibrations, and played lullabies from 17 known species. Bean had deactivated the lullabies within 5 minutes by drooling directly onto the control node. They passed a hall of statues. One had been recently altered. Jonah noticed the newest stone figure bore a very familiar pose of a man holding a baby with a look of absolute panic. The plaque beneath read, "He who silenced the air." I'm a statue now, he whispered. Mom would be proud. You will receive quarters befitting your position, the steward continued, unbothered. A private chef, a tutor in Zelari etiquette, 3 bodyguards. Bodyguards? For the baby? Number 4, you. Oh, good, so I'm officially a target now. Their arrival at his new quarters was marked by the sound of a court musician playing a welcome fanfare on an 8-string laser harp. Jonah flinched. Was that necessary? The musician stopped. I also do birthdays. Inside, the suite was absurd. A bed the size of a hover truck, lighting that adjusted to mood, a food synthesizer capable of generating molecular copies of meals from any species. Jonah tested it. Grilled cheese, Earth style. The machine chirped. A perfect sandwich materialized. Jonah bit in and sighed. Okay, fine. I could get used to this. Bean gurgled in agreement and reached for the sandwich. Nope, no teeth yet, your royal drooliness. The next few days passed in a blur of routines, disasters, and very awkward state dinners. Jonah learned to identify the baby's cries. There was the hungry cry, the sleepy cry, the I dropped my sparkle bot cry, and the dreaded you left the room for 2 seconds cry, which had caused a minor diplomatic incident when her wail triggered a nearby Alliance ship's emergency beacon. He was assigned a babysitting team composed of one empathic jelly creature named Blorp, very squishy, excellent lullaby hums, and a humanoid Zalaria attendant named Sari, who looked constantly offended that a human was holding the future queen. She is not a toy. Trust me, I know she's heavy, and she occasionally explodes bodily fluids in 4 directions. You should be honored. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm being punked by the galaxy. Queen Valara summoned him every evening for a status report. These mostly consisted of her silently staring at Bean as she played with Jonah's dog tags while Jonah attempted to be respectful and not refer to her throne as a very aggressive-looking recliner. Once, halfway through his 3rd report, Jonah accidentally addressed her as your glowiness. She didn't vaporize him. She didn't laugh either, but her ears twitched. That was something. During one report, as Bean nestled into Jonah's arm, Valara asked, "Do you know why she responds to you?" He shrugged. "Maybe she likes my voice, or maybe I smell like cheese." She responded to no one before you, not even me. That kind of makes me feel worse, actually. She is of royal blood. Her mind is wired for patterns, for legacy, for power, and yet she chooses you. You say it like I'm a defective toaster. I say it like I'm trying to understand a paradox. You are soft. Jonah looked down at Bean, who had begun drooling a small puddle on his jacket. I get that a lot. That night, while bouncing Bean gently and humming an Earth nursery rhyme about stars and cradles, Jonah noticed something strange. Her eyes glowed faintly, not alarmingly, just a soft amber light pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. He whispered to her, and the glow intensified. The hover cradle nearby, powered down for hours, flickered on for a brief moment. Okay, either you're learning telekinesis, or I just got inducted into the weirdest baby fan club in the galaxy. He made a mental note to talk to the court scientists, and maybe check his own vitals. The next morning, he woke to a message from command. He replied with a photo of Bean wearing his helmet. 2 minutes later, they reassigned his security clearance to Diplomatic Liaison, Childcare Relations. On day 6, while walking Bean through the royal gardens, still strapped to his chest and swatting at floating pollen lanterns, Jonah heard a voice behind him. You have become rather popular. Queen Valara stood in full regal attire, but her arms were loose at her sides. Not stiff, not threatening. Yeah, well, hard not to win fans when you smell like regurgitated formula and earth soap. She will change things. You mean politically? I mean everything. Bean sneezed. A nearby plant exploded into glitter. Jonah blinked. Okay, I'm starting to believe you. Valara actually smiled. Just slightly, just for a second. Then it was gone. Walk with me, she said. They strolled through the garden, queen, soldier, and glowing baby. And for once, the galaxy felt quiet. Jonah learned the phrase intergalactic cultural seminar the hard way, by being shoved into one. The Queen's advisors had decided that, since he was now the official ambassador of infant relations, a title growing more ridiculous by the hour, it was crucial he be educated in the finer points of Zalari etiquette. This included, apparently, a 6-hour immersion session in ceremonial bowing, which left his back feeling like it had personally hosted a meteor shower. Again, droned Instructor Threx, a lanky Solari with posture so rigid it looked like he was born in a broom closet. You must bow with reverence but not submission. Your elbows must point 33 degrees inward, and your gaze must be directed at the left kneecap of the Queen's ceremonial footrest. Are we sure this isn't just a complicated yoga prank? Instructor Threx did not blink. Disrespect toward royal protocol is punishable by minor limb rearrangement. Jonah sighed. You know, on Earth we show respect by not pointing lasers at each other. I have reviewed your Earth customs, Threx replied. They are chaotic. Behind them, Bean sat in a floating bubble crib, happily smearing alien pudding across her forehead. She had been given a ceremonial headdress earlier, but had chewed through it within minutes. Jonah had named the bubble crib Floaty Steve, and no one had dared correct him yet. Later that afternoon, a security officer arrived with a formal message cube. "It's vibrating," Jonah said as he picked it up. "That's not normal, right?" The cube opened midair with a musical ping and projected a holographic invitation. "You are hereby summoned to the High Council Chamber of Harmonized Minds to discuss the metaphysical implications of the infant phenomenon and its diplomatic impact. Formal attire required. Attendance mandatory. Refreshments will be served." Jonah groaned. "Why do all your events sound like psychic board meetings?" "Because they are," said the officer, turning on his heel and vanishing into the corridor. Formal attire, as it turned out, meant being squeezed into a tunic woven from bioreactive silk that adjusted color based on mood. Within 5 minutes, Jonah looked like a lava lamp in a thunderstorm. "You're flashing again," said Sari, arms folded, unimpressed. "It's either the fabric reacting to my emotions, or I'm allergic to high society." The High Council chamber was a sphere suspended midair by gravitational stabilizers. The councilors floated at equidistant intervals around the perimeter, like judgmental helium balloons. Jonah and Bean were placed at the center podium, which was actually a platform shaped like an open hand. Very subtle. "We welcome the human Jonah and the child of the flame," intoned the lead counselor, a massive being composed of pure sound encased in a shimmering exosuit. "Let the record show that the infant is calm. She just had a nap and 3 servings of pudding. I'd be calm too." Murmurs rippled around the sphere. "Is it true," asked a crystalline delegate, "that your bodily rhythm synchronizes with the child's bioluminescent patterning? I mean, sometimes we nap in the same rhythm. Does that count?" Another delegate, who looked like a walking coral reef, leaned in. "Does she communicate thoughts to you?" Jonah glanced at Bean, who was now chewing on one of his jacket's decorative buttons. "She mostly communicates through slobber." There was a pause. One delegate nodded solemnly. "Such ancient methods. Primitive. Powerful. I think she just likes the taste of metal." The questioning continued for hours. Topics included trans-species emotional bonding, the ethics of imprinting, and whether or not the child might possess dormant reality-altering powers. Jonah answered as best he could, which was to say, with increasing sarcasm, mild confusion, and a growing urge to lie down. Eventually, the queen arrived. Her entrance was silent, but every counselor went stiff. She approached the platform, her long coat trailing behind her like a living shadow. "You've interrogated him enough," she said. One brave counselor hovered slightly closer. "Your Majesty, with respect, we must understand the depth of this bond. If the child's destiny is entwined with a human—" "It is," she interrupted, "and you will adapt." Jonah tried to nod respectfully but hit his forehead on Bean's floating crib. Back in his quarters, he finally got a moment to breathe. He flopped onto the oversized couch while Bean floated above in a gentle snooze, wearing socks that sparkled with tiny embedded stars. The room lights dimmed automatically. Floaty Steve let out a soft lullaby hum. Jonah stared at the ceiling. "So I'm a diplomatic incident in a tunic." "Awesome," a voice responded from the wall. "Would you like soothing soundscapes?" "Sure, give me crushed dreams at sunset." A melancholic saxophone began to play. It was weirdly effective. A knock at the door made him groan. "If it's another counselor, I swear I'm going to invent a new insult." It wasn't a counselor. It was Queen Valara. He scrambled upright. "Your Majesty, welcome to Casa, baby." She raised an eyebrow. "You look unwell." "Thank you. That's my brand." She stepped into the room and glanced at the sleeping Bean. "She remains calm with you." "We're on a streak. I think I'm at 9 full hours." "You have adapted." "Pretty sure I've just stopped resisting." "Same thing?" She looked at him a long moment, as if measuring something invisible. "There are rumors about what she is, what she could be." "Yeah, the whole flame child thing is catching on. Makes her sound like a barbecue mascot." "You joke." It's how I survive. Velara's gaze softened, only slightly like a frozen lake giving the tiniest ripple. She chose you. I didn't exactly volunteer. She grabbed my face and screamed into my soul. Still, she chose you. They stood in silence for a while, both staring at the small, sleeping bundle of chaos that had somehow united a galaxy and ruined Jonah's shirts. I think she's dreaming, he said quietly. She smiles when she dreams. The Queen nodded. She will need more than diplomacy to shape her future. Don't worry, Jonah replied. I've got a whole toolbox of nonsense. Velar almost smiled. Almost. Then she left. Floaty Steve rotated gently as Bean stirred. Jonah leaned back, arms behind his head, and whispered, Don't worry, Bean. We've got this whole galaxy-bridging, destiny-defying adventure thing under control. Bean let out a fart so powerful it triggered the crib's altitude stabilizer. Jonah nodded. Starting tomorrow. Jonah had finally figured out a schedule. Wake up to Bean's chirping cries, usually broadcast through the palace speaker system by accident. Stumble into clothes while dodging her early morning gravity surges. Feed her something semi-liquid and vaguely glowing. Try not to question it, then strap her to his chest and spend the rest of the day trying to survive alien bureaucracy with a baby attached like a sticky, drooling badge of interstellar diplomacy. It was working, more or less, until the day the child started levitating furniture. Jonah was brushing his teeth when the couch behind him rose off the ground, hovered sideways, and very gently placed itself upside down on the ceiling. He stared at it in the mirror, then at Bean, then at the half-eaten snack cube floating gently in front of her, like an orbiting moon. Okay, he said, spitting into the sink. Either she's entered a telekinetic phase, or I'm losing my mind from sleep deprivation. Again. He tapped his wristcom. Sorry, we might have a situation. The baby is defying gravity, and possibly physics, and I don't think she's even trying. Sari's voice crackled back, flat as ever. We anticipated this developmental milestone. It typically occurs between week 3 and week 4. Week 4? You mean she's just getting started? She may begin warping reality soon. Please remain calm. Jonah looked at Bean, who was now levitating upside down, chewing on her foot. Define warping reality. Later that morning, the palace's science wing, an obsidian spire filled with floating labs and labs that floated the scientists themselves, asked to examine the child more closely. Jonah reluctantly agreed, but only if he could supervise, and only if they promised not to zap her with any weird rays or make her watch psychic cartoons again. The last session had given her a giggle fit so intense she sneezed her diaper off. Dr. Frinks, a four-eyed neurologist with a nervous blink and several robotic arms, greeted them with a tight smile. We'll be conducting a few simple resonance scans. Nothing invasive. That's what they said before they tried to install a pacifier drone, Jonah muttered. The scans began. Frinks hummed. Machines blinked. One console exploded softly and was carried away by a floating crab assistant. Her neural patterns are beautiful, Frinks finally whispered. They're synchronizing with the station's AI. She's rewriting code subconsciously. Jonah blinked. She's hacking the palace? She is improving it, very politely. The air filtration system just started humming lullabies. Back in the nursery, Bean glowed faintly and babbled at the wall. The lights dimmed in response. Jonah leaned closer. Are you talking to the palace? Bean burped. The next few days blurred together. Every time Jonah blinked, something new had changed. The baby monitor gained a sarcastic voice. The kitchen replicator started offering him snacks based on his mood. Today it handed him a warm muffin and said, For your emotional turbulence. Queen Velara summoned him after the third unexplained anomaly. She is awakening. I gathered. She turned my socks into butterflies. The queen paced. Zalari children of her lineage sometimes develop strange abilities. But this? She upgraded my translator chip. I now understand sarcasm in 17 dialects. Her powers must be tempered. She must be trained. Jonah folded his arms. She's a baby. She is my daughter, and she will shape the galaxy. He sighed. Yeah, well, right now she's mostly shaping my spine. Ever try carrying a glowing bowling ball for 10 hours? I carried her inside me for 10 months. Jonah raised his hands. Fair. Vailara's eyes softened. Just a little. We must prepare her. And you. A week later, Jonah found himself in a simulation chamber. It simulated gravity extremes, combat scenarios, and toddler tantrums. All at once. Sari monitored the controls. Level 3 tantrum, she called, initiating mid-air food rejection. Bean hurled a cup of mush at Jonah's chest. The room shook. Simulated lightning crackled. She doesn't even have this much control in real life. She's evolving, Sari replied. So must you. Jonah was dodging semi-solid fruit cubes while singing an earth lullaby when the chamber powered down unexpectedly. Alarms blared. Red lights pulsed. Queen Vailara's voice echoed across the system. All security units, converge on the Hall of Stars. Intruder detected. Jonah's wrist pinged with a location update. He looked at Bean. You didn't do this, right? Bean sneezed. A potted plant burst into song. Good enough. He sprinted toward the Hall of Stars. When he arrived breathless, baby strapped tight and gurgling with excitement, he found chaos. Guards surrounded a cloaked figure standing beneath the galaxy map projector. The intruder raised both hands. Peace. I come with warning, not war. Vailara stepped forward, her long ears angled sharply. Speak. The figure removed its hood. Jonah stared. The being was human, mostly, but its skin shimmered with star-patterned light. Its eyes were orbs of swirling data. It looked at Jonah and the child and bowed deeply. She is the fulcrum, it said, the key to what comes next. Great, Jonah muttered. Another prophecy. The being smiled. And you, soldier of Earth, you are the tether. I was hoping for noble guardian or legendary snack provider, but sure. Beware, the being continued. Not all who claim peace will protect her. Her gifts will frighten the powerful. The moment of choice will come. Soon. Then, without another word, it dematerialized in a flash of silent light. The queen turned to Jonah. She must be hidden, trained, guarded. She's a baby, he repeated. She's a storm. That night, Jonah rocked Bean to sleep under a ceiling of artificial stars. The air hummed with unseen power. Somewhere, deep in the circuits of the palace, her laughter played like a hidden melody. Jonah looked at her glowing cheeks, then out the window at a galaxy that suddenly seemed a lot bigger and far more breakable. I hope you never have to save the universe, he whispered. But if you do, maybe bring diapers. Bean farted. The lights flickered. He chuckled. Good talk. Jonah was not technically trained to lead a security detail during a palace lockdown. His previous record with emergencies involved evacuating a karaoke bar on Titan after a rival unit challenged his rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody. But this was different. This time the enemy had blasters, stealth tech, and a grudge against a baby. The attack came without warning. 3 cloaked infiltrators bypassed the outer perimeter, using cloaking fields and forged credentials. They weren't just any extremists. They were part of a hardline Zalari faction, furious that a human had bonded with the air, claiming it tainted the royal bloodline. Jonah was in the nursery when the alarm sounded. Bean was humming, if one could call it humming, really more like emitting variable pitch frequencies that had accidentally synced up with the room's light system, turning everything into a disco. Then the lights flickered. The music stopped. The crib's AI muttered, "Well, this isn't ideal," before powering down. Jonah didn't panic. He picked Bean up, strapped her tight to his chest, and muttered, "Time for our first escape sequence, kid. Try not to glow too much." He moved fast, ducking into hidden corridors he'd memorized during baby nap patrols. Behind him, plasma fire lit up the hallway. Ahead, the queen's voice crackled through his wristcom. "They are after her." "Yeah, I noticed. You could have warned me before they launched Team Angry Cloaks into my babysitting shift. I am intercepting 2. The 3rd is yours." "Perfect. You always knew how to spoil me." He reached the inner garden, the safest location in the palace, unless someone decided to weaponize the floating koi fish again. He ducked behind a sculpture of the galaxy, shaped like an enormous spinning gyroscope. The last attacker found them. Tall, armored, eyes glowing, weapon drawn. Hand over the child. Jonah didn't move. You're seriously threatening a guy with a diaper bag and a singing pacifier? She is a danger. Her powers are unstable. The Empire must be protected. By killing a baby? Wow. Real heroic. You get a badge for that, or just a lifetime supply of self-importance? The attacker raised the weapon. Bean sneezed. The weapon flew apart in a puff of harmless glitter. Jonah blinked. Bean giggled. Well, that saves me the trouble. The attacker lunged, but Jonah had been practicing in the simulation room. He ducked, tripped them with a sweep of his leg, and instinctively activated the emergency field embedded in his new uniform. A dome of kinetic energy surrounded him and Bean. The attacker tried again. Bean hummed. The palace lighting system reacted. Vines, real and artificial, sprouted from the walls and wrapped around the intruder. Jonah whistled. That's my girl. By the time the queen and the remaining guards arrived, the intruder was immobilized, muttering something about betrayal and destiny. Jonah stood calmly with Bean on his hip, offering her a celebratory snack cube. Vylara approached, eyes scanning for injuries. We're fine, Jonah said. She handled most of it. I just ran interference and offered moral support. Vylara looked down at Bean, who offered her a glowing sticker from a roll Jonah had been using as a bribe. She protected herself. Yeah, and saved me the cost of a bodyguard. Do you validate parental trauma? That night the palace was sealed, the attackers imprisoned, and the queen called a meeting of her advisors, scientists, and a very surprised galactic envoy from the United Planets, who had only come for tea and a photo op. She is beyond our understanding, said one scientist. She is a weapon, warned an old general. She is a child, Jonah replied. She doesn't want power. She wants warmth, snacks, lullabies. She wants to know she's loved. Silence. He looked around. She's not a threat. She's a bridge. You're just afraid of what she connects. The queen stood. The child will remain with Jonah. He is her guardian, by bond and by choice. A few gasps, a lot of blinking. Also, Vylara added, he makes decent grilled cheese. That sealed it. In the weeks that followed, the palace slowly returned to normal. Well, a new version of normal. Bean was given a protective team consisting of Jonah, Blorp, the empathic jelly, and 2 highly trained guards who doubled as bedtime storytellers. Jonah was promoted to Royal Liaison for Child Development and Interstellar Mediation, which mostly meant he got to tell foreign dignitaries not to touch the baby or question her bedtime. Queen Vylara softened. Publicly, she was still the image of royal perfection. But privately, Jonah caught her holding Bean when she thought no one was looking. He even saw her smile once, unprompted. It was weird, kind of beautiful. One evening, as stars stretched across the palace dome, Jonah and Vylara sat on a balcony. Bean lay curled in his lap, glowing faintly in sleep. She changed everything, Vylara said. She does that, kind of her thing. You have changed. I mean, I still eat cereal straight from the box, but yeah, you've grown. I used to run from responsibility. Now I carry it in a sling that smells like fermented carrots. They sat in silence. She'll be a queen one day, Vylara said softly. She'll be a mess first. That's the deal. Vylara nodded. Jonah stood, gently shifting Bean into her floating crib. Whatever she becomes, she won't be alone. You won't always be there. But she'll remember that someone was. The queen watched as the crib hovered back into the palace. Guarded, safe, loved. And Jonah turned to her, smiling. Besides, who else is going to teach her sarcasm in 17 dialects? The queen almost laughed. Almost.